We conclude today chapter 4, speaking about the concept of tshuva, what it means to return. What does it mean to return? But that's not where we're going right now. Now we're trying to understand, what does it mean that the name of God is a part of every divine soul? This is the name of God. Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey. That four-letter name of God, Shem Havaya, characterizes the divine soul that we're talking about. And we have a part of that in us. So first we're going to understand it the way it is on high, and then that will give us the capacity to understand it the way it's in us. And therefore we can understand the unique relationship that we have with God as opposed to the creations of God. So let's explain. So the Zohar says that God runs the world, as it were. He conducts the world, not just his physical world, but the spiritual worlds above. And this world, through the 10 attributes, divine attributes, they're called spherois. Spheroid comes from the saper, means to illuminate. So God's illuminating this world. So in a way that we call him wise, but not in a noble wisdom. We call him understanding, but not in a way that we can truly understand. So all this is the 10 spheres, represented in God's name. So let us begin. The letter Yud is the smallest of all letters. Actually, every letter begins with it. You know why? Because everything begins with Chachma. Everything begins with divine wisdom. That's the beginning point of everything. This is the way we write it out in full length, so to speak. But when you write, sometimes you just make a dot, because it is the infinite divine wisdom. And just like a dot you can split a dot, and as many times you split it, it's still a dot. This is a state of concealment, obscurity, that needs to be developed into further expansion. Now, in this divine wisdom, there's a little thorn on top. You see how it sticks up? That little thorn? That's the divine will. The divine will that refers to the crown. You see how it almost like it's acting like a crown on the letter? So the will of God is a crown. It's called a crown because it's something beyond. Crown is beyond the head, beyond the intelligence. So there is the divine intelligence, supreme will, and beyond that, the supreme will of God that transcends even supernal wisdom of God. Now, that Yud, that Chachma, is how God conducts the hidden worlds, because that itself is hidden. That is it.
Okay. Just read that.
Okay, I'm in the middle of teaching, please.
No, it's very important.
Okay.
Can you do this? You'll do it?
Yes.
Now? Now? She's in Florida. Are you going to Florida?
No.
Do you know anybody going to Florida?
No, I don't.
Boca Raton.
No, I don't.
Can you call her and ask her?
You see, I'm teaching right now. Okay.
It's very important, Rabbi. I can't take it anymore.
Okay.
I can't take it.
I apologize for this. This person has a little difficulties over here.
Please call the number. Please call. I'll talk to her. Please call the number.
I'm just moving.
I'm just gonna ask her what she wants from me. What does she want from me?
I
was in prison. I just got out of prison. She wants me to go back to prison.
Okay.
Please. I want it to be Aguna.
Okay.
Rabbi, please help me.
You'll have to ask the rabbis here. I don't.
Please help me. Rabbi New's not here. He's in Australia.
Okay.
Please help me.
I apologize for this. This person has some issues that I can't help, unfortunately.
Please help me.
Um,
I'm going to the bathroom for a minute.
okay, please do not bother. Okay? When I finish. Okay?
You promise?
When I finish, I'll help whatever I can. When I finish. Whatever I can, I will help. But don't come now. Okay? I apologize, folks. This is what you call a huge rachmanis, huge pity. You know how huge it is that the previous Rebbe said is that based on the Talmud that there are some people that you can't have compassion on. Imagine what kind of compassion that is, that you can't even have compassion on them. Unfortunately, it's a breakdown, and being compassionate just makes it worse. And meaning compassionate and not just giving in to everything that such a person wants. Anyways, so as we explained, so the beginning of God's conducting with the hidden world, which is spiritual world beyond us, is with it starts with the letter Yud. It also continues at the letter Hey. The letter Hey is an expansion of a Yud. If you take a look over here, the Hey, you have to start it writing over here. And when you start writing it like this, it's the beginning of the Yud. Now it's extended, and it goes down like this, and it has a little leg over here. All right, but it begins with a Yud. It begins with a Yud, but then it continues, right? Because it's taking the supernal wisdom, which is just a dot, so to speak, and it continues it and expands upon it, and that's Bina, that's divine understanding. Right? That's taking the seminal point of Chachma and amplifying it, that it becomes now something that can be comprehended. And what does it mean? What's comprehended? Divinity in the spiritual worlds. It's divinity in the spirit, not in this world, in the spiritual worlds, right? It is the life force of these two letters, in particular, of the spiritual hidden worlds beyond us. Okay. And then we have the next stage, as it extends into the revealed worlds. So these are divine intelligence, wisdom, understanding. Then we have, and just as intelligence in the human being is something that is inside of the person that you don't perceive, where is the perception of an individual to another? It begins with the letter Vav in the divine. I'm just giving you by example. The letter Vav is a numeric value of 6. It refers to 6 divine emotions. That's right. And a Vav means to connect. Where does connection with otherness begin? In emotions. That's where it begins in human emotions, right? If you were just an intelligent brain without emotions, you wouldn't need to connect to another. The need to connect with another starts with an emotion. Emotion brings to an attachment or disattachment, right? To love something and to embrace it, or to fear something and to avoid it. But it's a relationship now with something outside of you. Intelligence would necessitate, if we were just intelligent beings without emotions. Emotions is what it necessitates that we connect with another. So this is the letter Vav. The letter Vav is numeric value 6. It's the 6th letter in the Hebrew alphabet. And also it's written, in a way, this is the way it has to be written, that you draw down. You're drawing down the 6 emotions. You're drawing it from intelligence. You see how it starts with a Yud again? Because everything starts with divine wisdom, but then it's drawn down into emotions. And those emotions are now what begin a relationship with the revealed world. Because what does it mean revealed? When you reveal yourself. Beginning of revelation is in emotions. Right? That's the beginning. And then we come finally to the letter He, which is the final letter He, which that refers to Malchus. Malchus in the divine order of things means speech. As a king rules through his word, so likewise the divine attribute of Malchus is God, how he conducts through his word, which is revealing then his emotion, which in there is divine wisdom as it's expanded upon and brought down. As it's brought down. That's the way it's in the divine, right? This name of God is then blown into our soul and is a part of our soul. It's the part of our makeup of who we are. So what does it mean inside of us? Well, we have also wisdom, chachma, right? Chachma is the ingenuity of an idea. It's the flash that comes into your head. Ah, eureka, I got it. That light, illuminates you. But it's not complete because it's just a flash of an idea. It's a seminal intelligence, but it's not really getting it. When do you really get it? When you bring it into He. The breadth, the length, and the depth of an idea of your intelligence. And that's the way it continues in us, right? That we have to bring it into we have to bring it into our understanding. Now, here it's a little different the way it's going to be described, the way it's in us, than we just described it in the divine order of things. And both ways are true. It's always, everything is contextualized. So the context over here is that in us, when you understand something, then it brings to the third leg over here, which is feelings. Right, that it draws down into your feelings. Actually, I shouldn't even say that. From here, it's brought down here into feelings. Here's the Vav, right? That which we understand is drawn down into our heart. That gives us feelings, right? And they're connected, the two. So here they're connected in us, and I'll explain soon the distinction. Then we come into Vav. Vav over here, as opposed to the way we explained it in the divine order, was emotions, right? We used the Vav over here of the side of the He, which is a letter Vav too, as Bina going into emotions. And then over here, this is speech. This whole question, where does otherness begin? Does it begin in your emotions? Or does it begin when you talk to somebody, when you reveal yourself? Only really when you reveal yourself is there otherness. In actuality, in potential, it's there in feelings, but only potential. So in the divine order of things, where potential is something that's realized. In other words, from our perspective, potential is not necessarily realized. So you can have a feeling and may not come to speech, right? You may not reveal it to another. The feeling might be left in you, might be left in your head, may be left in your raw, emotional makeup and never expressed. or not at this moment express, right? So we're always lacking, with the expression. By God, it's not that way. By God, that which is in the intelligence begets the divine emotion. Ein chaser, ein koyach chaser poyel. By the divine order, potential is not lacking actualization. The potential is actualized by God, not by us. So therefore, where does the beginning of revelation begin for us? That there's true otherness. The potential for otherness is in our emotions. In actuality, where there's otherness is when we start talking to another, revealing ourselves to another. So Vav is drawing down to otherness, which is speech. And Hey, therefore, is action. Right? Is action. How is the Hey also shows action? Because from thought comes to you think, what you think, you speak, and then you have a third leg over here that's disattached, because what you are thinking, are the same letters of speech. And then we just draw down into speech. But that it comes to action, not necessarily. That's why you can talk the talk, but you gotta walk the walk. That not necessarily because you talk the talk, will you walk the walk. Why? Because there's a disattachment, a disconnect between the two. And that's why the letter Hey also represents action. Also represents action. Okay. So in the divine order, Hey is speech. In the human order, Hey is action. Why? Because God's speech doesn't miss action. Isn't lacking action. God speaks. He says, let there be light. Let me think about if I'll put it into action. No, his word is his action. So it's one and the same thing, right? By us, it's not one and the same thing. So this is what God blew into us. Right? And this is who we are as a result. And that is today's Tanya. So, you know what God's greatest kindness is? Is that we exist and he allows us to know him. To know him and to be connected to him. That's the greatest kindness that there is. That we could choose to know him. How do we know him? By knowing ourselves. When we know about the makeup of the part of us that is a part of him, that gives us an access to knowing God, right? So God made himself vulnerable because now he made it up to us that we should seek out to know him. In his kindness, that he shares a piece of him in us that we could reject. Which, of course, then makes him vulnerable because we may not accept it. We may not want to live with it. So to really connect with another, with what God wants to do, we make ourselves vulnerable and we share something of us to another. That is a beautiful thought to come away with this. Yeah, so make yourself vulnerable. Share you. The greatest thing you have, the gift that you have is you. Share yourself. Okay. Any questions? The space and letter Hey, David is asking, would there be a hidden meaning behind the disconnect on letter? Yes, I explained. In action, you could talk the talk, but you don't necessarily walk the walk. There's a disconnect. What you think naturally comes into words of speech. Why? Because of the same vocabulary. They're the same letters. You think in language, you talk in language. So you draw it down from thinking into speaking. That doesn't necessarily bring you to action, though. Just because you said something doesn't necessitate action. That's why there's a disconnect over here, right? That's when it comes to this letter being action. This letter is also above, in the divine order, is Malchus, royalty, kingship. The king rules with his word. The letter Hey is a letter that is got, when you pronounce it, it's only breath. It's the breath of God in his speech. But there's another aspect to speech, and that is the five parts of our 5 organs that are responsible to create speech. Lips, tongue, teeth, palate, and larynx. Those are what creates the articulation. Breath is all equal in all speech. But to articulate Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Dalet. So, right, so for example, Shin is with teeth, Lamed is with a tongue, Ayin is Ayin, Ches is guttural, right? So in order that there be to particularly make a particular letter, so you need the 5, which Hey is the numeric value of 5, and that's the 5 organs that are involved in particularizing the letters in speech, right? So what do we have? Again, Hey representing Malchus above, which is divine speech. God's speech is not lacking action. His speech is the action. Just like the king rules with his word is the action. You know, his word is his law, is action, so to speak. And this is what we do. That's with the divine. In us, there's a distinction. Okay. Any other questions? 2 question marks before you ask. Yeah, I know everything's safe over here. There's nothing that I have to worry about this individual. Again, it's... Okay. How would you best explain the difference between Chachma and Bina? Jeff is asking. So, Chachma comes from the word, 2 words, Koachma, the power of what? Like, you're walking down the street, you had a problem and something is, oh my, I got it. That eureka, that light bulb that goes out in your head. You got it. What did you get? You got the the general idea. You don't have the specifics. Specifics you have to work out. So it's like a flash. It's that ingenuity. So it's like the right brain versus the left brain. The right brain is more creative. It's ingenuity. The left brain is more methodical, right? That's what Bina is. Bina is now taking the thought, the idea, the seminal point, now elaborating, or breadth, length, and depth, the letter Hey, right? Right, it shows on that. It's taking that idea, that seminal thought, and fully developing it. So most of the world that we live in is a world of Bina, understanding things. We don't have that much ingenuity. A little, we do, but most of our time is not dealing right brain creativity. It's more left brain. I shouldn't say that. I mean, we use both, but information is Bina. Okay. Thank you for the question. Okay, beautiful. All right, folks. Unfortunately, there won't be a Rambam now. I have a bris. But we will continue, God willing, our conversation. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, wishing everybody an amazing day. Only wonderful, good things that we should have in living with the Tanya, learning to live with it. Have a great